All right. Well, congratulations. Hopefully, at this point in time, you have finished the SAW project, your first project here in this course, which is great. Um, so I wanted to let you know how I am going to go through your project and do the grading. What am I looking for? Well, first off, if you didn't use the videos and you just kind of did it on your own, then you should probably go back and start all over and do it the way the videos show. But the vast majority of you are smart enough to say, "Hey, I'm going to learn something," and you want to get through this in a reasonable amount of time. So here we are with the uh, with doing it the way I had instructed. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is actually where to go is I'm going to go to my email. Okay. So here's virtual convocation and so on. So I'm going to go to my email and I'm going to throw it into a folder down here. I'm going to find your email, throw it into a folder down here, and it's going to be with everybody else's. So that's why you have to have your own names and all the file names and stuff like that. So I'm going to open it up and I'm going to download them. And I'm going to open them up, and you should have five files. The assembly, the rivet, uh, drawing, the rivet model, the handle model, and the blade model. So I don't care what order that they come up, and I just look at them and I just go down the line here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever order they come up in, it doesn't matter. So um, so now I'm looking at the assembly. So we'll go with the assembly first. And I'm going to look over here on the side, and we see that the saw handle has this F thing here. This F means fixed. Now, the opposite of fixed is to float, which is a really dumb thing because they both start with F. So which does that mean? I don't know, but that wasn't my choice. But F here means fixed. That means that you didn't really care. You just kind of threw it in there, and that's fine for this particular assembly. But then I noticed that the saw blade, the saw rivet, and the other saw rivet all have minus signs here. Now, that's okay for the two rivets. I'll tell you why in a second, but it's not okay for the saw blade, and I'll show you why. Because that obviously is not working the way it's supposed to be working. All right, so there's a problem with this. It's not completely defined the way it's supposed to be. So I'm going to show you a quick trick here as well. Is that I want to put this into the hole where it belongs and then align it with the hole where it belongs, but I can't see it very well because this rivet's in the way. I'm going to right click on the rivet and I'm going to tell it to hide the rivet. Notice how it goes from a colored thing to like a black and white with a white, kind of clear here, and it goes away. So now I can mate this up. So I'm going to assembly mate. And what I usually like to do is I have a little shortcut that lets me see these, but I can show you how to do that. You go view, hide show, temporary axes. And I created my shortcut called Alt A here. But if you take the X, undo that, you don't see that axis there. And there it is. Okay, I think I show that to you guys. But anyway, so I've got these axes. So I'm going to use that axis, and boom, they're together. All right. So if I saw something like that in your file, I would say, hey, this isn't working. This isn't properly defined. See, now it's fully defined. It cannot be moved. And I would send it back to you. All right. So now I'm going to show that component again, and I'm going to take care of those things. All right. So now about the saw rivets. Again, this is all about design intent. And you have to ask yourself, is it really important that this rivet is a particular straight up and down orientation or something like that? It just matters that the flat is against this surface and that it's going straight through the hole. That's all that really matters. It doesn't matter what orientation it is. So it should be able to spin. And I don't know if you can see it, but very carefully, you might be able to see it in this reflection here that I'm actually spinning it in the hole here. And that's what that minus sign means. It's not completely defined. So it can move in one way, shape, or form. So in this case, it just is able to rotate, and that's fine. All right. So when we have parts that aren't properly defined or sketches that aren't fully defined, that's when we have the real problem. But that's a question that comes up a lot. All right. So what I'm going to do here then to actually look at things, I'm going to look at the mates. Now, you could put a billion mates down here, and that would be bad because that's too much information. It often can cause problems. We want the minimum number of mates to make it work the way it's supposed to. So I have 7 mates here. So I've got that coincident here of this, and if you just drag this out, you can see that it has to do with the handle and the blade. And this one is the planes, as you can see, and then there's concentric of the rivets, and then there's that last one that I added here that was the coincident of the 2 axes here. So all you need are 7, 2 each for the rivets and 3 for the blade, and then the handle itself is fixed. So, you know, that's fine. All right, so I'm going to look at that. I'm going to open up the mates, check that out, make sure everything's right, make sure I can't grab things and drag them around, and then I'm going to move on. All right, so here's the drawing. This is often where students lose some points and have to go back and redraw things, and that's because drawings, honestly, they're a pain, but they're very important, and I'm particularly particular about these. So I'd apologize, sorry, not sorry, but this is where a lot of the communication has to happen. I don't even go as far as as I should probably in this course, but I'm just trying to show you how drawings are made up. So you'll notice I have all of these spaced out very nicely, so you can clearly see what everything's pointing at. The numbers are way off of the part itself, uh, and the lines aren't crossing. Notice how these witness lines here are away from the points that they're looking at. They're close, but they're a certain distance away. Same thing here, same thing here. So these are witness lines. So that's a witness line right there. And if you want to move it, you just click on it, and then you grab that little control point and drag it up and down. All right, and this one is good. Notice how I have this 0.71 ref. This was not a part of the original design, but if you were to be making these parts, that would be a really easy diameter to measure, say with your calipers or something like that. And so if it was off, you know, if it was a ½ an inch diameter right there, you'd know that something was going wrong. So even though this is a reference, it's a help to those who are making the actual part. And now, for this particular thing, I do want these vertically oriented like this, and this down here, but there might be some issues with that, especially when it comes to this particular view. You might not get this angle view. The angle might actually come up on this view. So what you need to do is, unfortunately, you need to kind of start over. It's not that terribly bad, but what you want to do is you want to take this view, do a view layout, projected view, bring down here, then basically delete everything else. That sounds terrible, but it's pretty easy to do. Delete everything else, then you take this view and you create a bunch more new views with it. So I'm going to put that one here and then make the section view of that one. And then there's that section view there. And then we do the detail view here, out like that. And then you'll get the views you need to make so that this angle, for whatever reason, they only like to put the angle on the same plane that it's created. The other ones are fine. The diameters and the distances, that's fine. For whatever reason, the angles do only come up on the plane or parallel to a plane where they're created. So I'm going to get rid of all those. All right. So I'm going to going back through, I'm going to be looking to make sure you have all the dimensions and that you've got the details called out. The section should have a different name than the details. That's why I have section A and then detail B. And all these dimensions are there, and they are nicely spaced, and they're not crossing any other lines if they don't have to. There's nothing outside the border, any of that kind of stuff. Now, here's something that is wrong with my drawing. I do not have center lines here. I've got a center mark here. This is a center mark, and there's a center line kind of going down here, but I didn't put any other center lines in here. And that is a classic issue people forget because they look at my they watch the video, and I think I may have forgotten to put them in. So make sure you do this. Here's the center line. You go annotation, center line, and the fun part is that if you click right here, guess what? This is a cross section. It's flat. So you can't really put a center line in here, but you watch the yellow. It'll tell you how to do it. Automatically insert center lines for, and click the auto insert option, so you could do it like this. You could select the view, or so I'll do that for this one, okay? Oh, I guess it's not gonna do that for that view, so it doesn't like that. So now we've got to go back to the center line, and what it says, select two edges or sketch segment or a single cylindrical conical face. So guess what? Right here, this isn't being cut. This is deep into, so this is a cylindrical face right here that is not flat. This part's cut, but this part isn't. So you click right here, and there is the center line. So we do the same thing over here, and there's the center line. But notice how this center line goes through detail B. We don't want it going all the way through that. So I want to click on it and change it. But look, I've got a control point here, but where's the other control point? This view is a section or a detail of a larger view. So the other control point is way up here because the rest of the part's going to be way up here. So you have to grab the control point there and bring it all the way down. So yeah, dumb little things, but there we are. All right. So check mark on that, and I hope you save it. I'm not going to save it for the moment. All right, so that's the drawing. That is probably, like I said, the bulk of it. The other ones are just the parts, and I'll go through those relatively quickly. So here's saw rivet. First thing I'm going to be looking for on any of these parts, anything, is I'm going to be looking down at these sketches. All right, so so if you want to make things easier for me, just show the sketches. If you think you're going to hide the sketch, think I'm going to go over it, I'm going to miss it, no. It's best for you to just get it done right. And then the first thing I'm going to be looking for is to see if you have a single revolved part here. If you don't have a single feature, you've got multiple features, then go back and actually watch the video. It's pretty simple and straightforward. All right, so I'm going to edit that sketch. I'm going to, if you want a wonderful shortcut, Control-8 will just bring it to that face that you are looking at. So then if you hit Control-8 again, it'll go to the other side. There it is, something like that. And I guess mine is kind of upside down or whatever, but that's okay. And I'm just going to be looking at how this is all done. And if you've got this lined up with the origin and the 45 degrees and the 03 and the 25 and the 30 degrees here, and making sure that these are done in diameters, not in radii or some other weird thing. Okay, so I'm going to just be quickly looking at all the dimensions, making sure they're all correct. It's okay if they're not beautifully set up because the computer has a tendency to screw that up anyway. But I'm just going to be looking at all the green marks, making sure it's all good. I've seen this a couple thousand times, so I'll go through quickly. And that's going to be pretty much it for the rivet. So next, go to the saw handle. This is, of course, fairly complex. So again, the first thing I'm going to be doing is opening up these sketches. So if you wanted to have them open to begin with, that'll help me out. And I'm going to edit sketch. Hit Control-8, and it goes, shows that to me normal. and I'm going to be looking at the first off the shape. I can just tell that sometimes there's something wrong if I don't have the right shape, but I'll look at all the dimensions. I'll also notice that I'm going to be looking at these two, for example, and see if did you dimension both of them, or did you make them equal? So if you made them equal, you only need one dimension. Same thing here. Same thing here with these two, and same thing here with these two. Did you use symmetry? So I'm looking at the symmetry here and here, and so on. That's a lot of what I'm going to be looking at. The dimensions here, the 4.5 and the 6 overall. So I'll be looking at all those, and yep, that's the biggest issue here. Then I'm going to look at the cut extrude. Cut extrude is way up here. I think I refer to it as a slot sometimes. So the slot, notice the slot needs to be right down the middle. And sometimes students have a problem with that. One of the reasons they do is because the boss extrude, they forget that it's supposed to be mid-plane, not blind. So mid-plane will make sure that this that the origin is right down the middle, and so on. So it's nice and symmetric. So if I instead go back to this cut extrude, goes all the way down through. We've used symmetry a couple times, going right down with the origin. All right. And then last but not least, fillets. I used fillets. Some people use this sketch and they put the curves in there. That's fine. But I use these fillets here, and it's twice in those locations. So I might look at that, like, okay. And then look at these fillets. All right, looks good. And then now this fillet is expected to be, oops. Okay, yeah, these fillets. Wondering about that. Okay, yeah, these fillets are expected to be, they don't have to all be one fillet like I have here, one feature, but they do have to make sense. If you wanted to make 4 different ones, fine. Still makes you wonder why you want to have 4 different ones. But if you want to do the outside ones here in one, and then the inside ones, or the left and the right, that makes sense. But just, kind of hodgepodging and have 18 different fillets. One of the key things is I've got tangent propagation that allows it to move smoothly all the way around and captures all of those. Yeah, that's all very well and good, but don't have them like kind of hodgepodgey. Make sure that you know what you're doing. The reason why I have them all like this is because I intend that all of them have the same radius. They're all going to be contacting human hands, and so that's a good radius for that to, at least I think so. But if I were ever told otherwise, oh, and it needs to be a bigger radius, I could easily just click on it, change it, and then they're all changed. Instead, if you hodgepodge it, then you're gonna have to change each individual one, increasing the chance for a mistake. All right, so make sure those are logical, fillets are logically set up. And then last but not least is the saw blade. Again, looking at the sketches here, first thing I'm gonna do is click that. I'm gonna look over here first, make sure you have all sorts of good good relations, that they're symmetric, that these two are equal, and they're symmetric about this, so everything is nice and orderly, and so if anything got changed, they'd stay symmetric and so on. And looking at these dimensions, make sure that they're the right ones. I have the radius here included in the sketch. You can have a radius, a fillet that is given outside if that's what you wanted to do. Then I've got the 1.50 to that intersection, which is a nice little feature. And there's 18 inches long. Okay, great. However, the biggest thing that students mess up on is not this, although this is a little triangle here. It's the next bit is where they might not make this triangle equal to the other one. And then when they do this linear pattern, they sometimes refer to the wrong one. Sometimes they refer to, instead of the second one, they refer to the first one. So that when that pattern goes for 130, they actually end up with 129 teeth, not 130 teeth. So make sure that you've got two of those triangles. One refers to the other, then the linear pattern refers to the first one. And finally, the chamfer. That chamfer is pretty straightforward. Not going to worry about talking too much about that right now. Needs to be there, needs to be symmetric, needs to be right. But I'll just look at that and say, oh, okay, yeah, you got that. All right, one last final and very important thing, especially on this one, students get this messed up, is that instead of having these symbols right here, you end up with a funny symbol, all right? That funny symbol is not acceptable. And that funny symbol comes from sometimes the computer thinking you're doing something fancy called a selected contour. So I'm going to show you how to make it go bad, all right? So notice what I did here. I clicked on the outside here and suddenly those holes went away. So students say, what the heck? Those holes aren't there. Well, notice over here, it has a thing. It looks like a funny shape with the, I don't know why they chose that one. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I call it like a factory with a hole in it or something. You know, if you see the symbol, make sure you get rid of it. And this is how you get rid of it. You just do the opposite of what I just did. Right click here, go up to edit feature, and click down here, hit delete or clear selections, kill it with fire, and then hit OK, and the holes should return. Now, if the holes don't return, if it still comes back with that symbol and so on, that means there's something wrong with your sketch. And you have to go and dig around in your sketch. There might be a little tail somewhere or some other kind of problem. There might be an extra line that you're not intending, and sometimes it's a real pain to figure out. So if you dig into your sketch and you still have a hard time finding it, ask the tutor or myself to look over your sketch and say, hey, what's wrong? And usually, you know, one of us can find it pretty quickly. We're used to doing that kind of stuff, but it's good for you to learn how to try to figure it out yourself. All right, so that's how you get rid of that. I also cover that in the other video. All right, so I hope that that this is helpful in letting you know what I'm going to be looking at, and so that you can do the best job you can, and you can get 100% on your project. Now, remember, I'm going to be looking at all 5 at the same time, so I don't want, you know, say, hey, you know, can you grade this now, then grade this. No, we look at all 5 together because they're all kind of part of one project. All right. Well, thanks a lot for listening, and I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if there's anything else that you need. Okay.